story I want to tell you today is from my book A Traveller's Tales, which was published by Amazon, and is called Playing with the Snake. I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between her seed and your seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel, we read in Genesis 3:15, the Living Bible. As I contemplated these words, I recalled an incident that had happened in my childhood. It illustrates this Bible verse perfectly. Puss, tired of the constant attention-seeking of her 3 lively kittens, yawned and stretched and decided to go hunting. It was midday, not at all the usual time to hunt. All respectable cats hunt at night, but she was fed up with her domestic responsibilities and wanted some diversion. So hunting she would go. Besides, she might find a snake sunbathing in Sandy Hollow, or an unsuspecting lizard to chase. Anything to relieve the boredom of being a mother cat. She yawned and stretched once more and carefully examined each of her claws in turn. She narrowed her eyes and stalked off, her tail held high like a banner, into the jungle surrounding the mission station. Now for some fun, as she purred to herself. Soon she espied a baby green mamba coiled up in a sandy depression at the foot of a flame of the forest tree, basking in the warm African sunshine. "Ah, perfect," she purred. Quietly she wriggled closer to her intended victim, then pounced, gripping the snake firmly behind the head with her teeth. Then head held high, and dragging the lashing body between her legs, she turned for home. What a prize! What a gift for her mistress! What fun it would be to play with her victim! Thoughts like these chased through her furry head as she walked through the door of the mission house, dragging her writhing victim. Her 3 kittens rushed to meet her. Her mistress, seeing what kind of snake her pet held in her mouth, scooped up the wriggling kittens and shouted for Samson the gardener to come quickly and bring a machete. Tired of carrying her still writhing victim, Puss dropped him on the concrete floor, then leapt out of the way just as the injured snake hissed and struck out. Instantly Samson lifted his machete and brought it sharply down, severing head from body. Ginger Tom, the boldest kitten, dived for the writhing headless body and gripped it in his tiny mouth. Instantly the snake's body wrapped itself round and round the kitten's neck. Tom paraded up and down in front of his sisters with his prize. Puss purred with delight. She'd created all this excitement. Wasn't she the clever cat? Then all of a sudden a small voice shrieked, "My kitten! Mummy! Mummy, save my kitten! The snake is killing Ginger Tom!" Samson deftly caught the tiny cat and prized the coils from his neck. Tom spat and scratched, angry to be separated from his prize. Puss, satisfied with the stir she had caused, called her kittens to her and stalked off with them to her box. Lazily she closed her eyes and grinned quietly to herself as she relived the mischief she had created. Thinking about this incident involving a beloved pet of my childhood reminded me how very often we, like Puss and her kitten, like to play with things we shouldn't, just to get some excitement out of life. These forbidden involvements may include taking drugs, prostitution, stealing, dabbling with the occult, or even just going places and reading material we know are likely to be dangerous. We think what we simply experiment with will not hurt us. Like the kitten, we can easily become trapped in the coils of sin. We can think ourselves really clever, a bit like Puss. We play with sin, knowing its dangers. We get more and more entangled in its coils and can't get out unless we have help from Father God, who, like Samson, will cut off the head of the serpent Satan and prise his coils from round our necks. Genesis chapter 3 tells us the story of the snake that tempted Eve in the Garden of Eden. In verse 15, God says, "I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between her seed and your seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel." King James Version. Here God is promising that he will send his son Jesus to rescue us from the coils of sin, and he fulfilled that promise at the cross when he bruised the head of Satan. In bringing in the snake, Puss was oblivious to the danger she was putting her world into. Her thoughtlessness could have ended very tragically, with the death of one or all of her kittens, or even the death of a small human. If Samson had not acted so quickly, playing with a snake, as Puss did, and leading her kitten to play as well, is like playing with sin. Won't you give your life into the hands of Father God and ask him to protect you from the temptation of playing with sin? Ask him to keep evil far away from you and not allow you to cause evil to anyone else. Have a very happy Easter.